guys, welcome back to my channel. I realized after filming this entire video that I just completely forgot to do an intro, so welcome back. In this video, we're gonna just be doing reading fantasy slash dystopian for a week. I know the Shatter Me series is kind of considered dystopian, but just with all the aspects of it, I would definitely still lump it under fantasy. But yeah, since I kind of already filmed everything, I'm just gonna keep this intro very short and sweet. So the next couple clips will be me reading the last book in the Shatter Me series, and then you will see me read Powerless. So I hope you guys enjoy the video. Okay, hey guys, so right now it's obviously later in the day. I'm like 150 pages into Imagine Me, and my feelings about this book and this series have kind of been a little bit all over the place, honestly. I really liked the last book in the series, which was Defy Me. The book before that, which I think was Restore Me, I did not really love. It just felt kind of slow and not really anything happened until the very end. That one was kind of like a transition book though. I think Shatter Me was originally supposed to be a trilogy. Correct me if I'm wrong, but then the author just ended up extending the series and adding 3 more books to it. So that's kind of like the half that I'm currently reading. I will say that the 4th book definitely seemed like a transition between the first 3 and these last ones, which I understand why not maybe as much happened, but I still feel like that might not really be necessary, especially if you have novellas in between. I don't know, just that 4th book wasn't really doing it for me, and then the last book I really enjoyed, so I was really excited to go into this one. And this one again, I mean, I am like maybe a little bit more than the 3rd into it, but it is finally just starting to pick up, and I feel like, I don't know, just for it being the last book in a series, it should have just been a little bit more interesting and not even just action-packed, but I feel like there should have been better like dialogue and scenes since the beginning. I will say that other than the main characters who we followed for a while, a lot of the side characters are just not my favorite and just kind of feel surface level. Like, we'll have scenes with them talking and I don't really care, you know, what's going on with them, which kind of sucks. I don't know, like I just went into this book so excited because of how much I liked the last one that I'm feeling a little bit let down. Obviously we're not to the end hopefully will make up for it, but I do just kind of wish that not even just the action, but like the pace was more consistent throughout all of the books, if that makes sense. And maybe it is because I just read, you know, Akatar and Akamov and Akawar, which I feel like the pacing was just done really well. And even though there's scenes with a lot of dialogue, it didn't feel slow during those. And I don't know, maybe it's just because you care more about the characters, which is kind of odd because like I do really like a lot of the characters. I don't know why I don't care so much. I will say my favorite characters maybe aren't in this book as much as they were in the previous one. I don't know, it's kind of hard to put my thoughts right now into words just because I am a little bit disappointed in how it's going, but I don't know, we are finally starting to pick it up a little bit, so I'm hoping that the rest of the book just goes a little bit more at a faster pace, and hopefully that will kind of like make up for this first third. But I don't know, I'm a little bit conflicted right now. So it is the next day and right now I'm exhausted. I got only 2 hours of sleep last night and then like 5 hours the night before that. I've just had a midterm yesterday. I have 2 presentations today, and of course one of them was at 8 in the morning, and then, you know, people don't like to do their section in the group work, so some people are stuck doing other people's work. Anyways, I am like 200 pages into Imagine Me. I just have to be honest, I just don't love the direction that the second half of the Shatter Me series has gone in. I genuinely think you can definitely get away with just reading the first 3 books and probably end up liking the series more than if you actually continued it. Maybe it'd be a little bit different if I was reading it earlier in my reading journey, or if I was younger and haven't read a lot better of fantasies, but honestly, I'm just not loving it. And not that I'm gonna DNF it, because at this point, like, it's the 6th book in a series. I'm gonna finish it. I want to know how things end, but I don't think I'm gonna necessarily rush to finish it. I'm not as motivated to finish it as I usually am with books, especially series. Like, I usually fly through series. I am very much a series girl, where I like to read them back to back just because I need to know what happens. This series, or at least this second half of this series, has really not been like that with me, which is kind of surprising, because that's, again, like I said, I'm usually someone who needs to read series back to back, and I'm super motivated to finish, especially the last book. I don't know what's going on, but I'm not loving it. We'll leave it at that. But with that being said, I think I'm going to actually pick up another book right now, and then I'll just kind of slowly read that one over the course of however long. So I don't know if I'll actually finish it in this video or not, just because, I don't know, I don't really want to force myself to read it. I'll just get to it when I get to it. But I am really excited for this next book that I'm gonna read, which is gonna be Powerless by Lauren Roberts. I have heard such good things about this book, and I believe it is the start of a series. I don't know how many books are gonna be in it, but it is the only one out right now. But literally everybody that I've heard talking about it has absolutely loved it, and so I'm just really excited to see what it's about. I've heard it's an enemies to lovers, and I guess there's like ordinaries where she doesn't have power and he does, and he's hunting people that don't have powers, something like that. I'm not totally sure. I'll give you guys a little bit of a better idea once I actually get into it. But I will say I do really like this cover. I prefer paperbacks usually, but I will say if hardcovers were more often this smaller size of the book, I think I would like them equally. It's just I don't love how most hardcovers tend to be super big. Anyways, I will come back later when I have a little bit more on it. And also, this will probably be featured in an upcoming haul. I'm not sure if I'm going to post it before or after I end up posting this video. I do have another couple books coming in the mail like by the end of this week, so we'll see which goes up first. But yeah, I'm really excited for this one, and I'll come back when I have some more actual thoughts on it. Okay, hey guys, so I wanted to come back with a little bit of an update on Powerless. I am a decent bit in, like a little over 150 pages, and so far I am really liking it. So we have our 2 main characters, Kai, who is a prince, and Enforcer. Basically what his job is to do is to seek out these people that are ordinaries, which essentially just means that they don't have a specific power, and kill them. And our main female character, Peyton, is an ordinary, and she pretends to have this specific power just obviously so that she doesn't get caught, and she is currently like living on the streets. She's a thief. Kind of reminds me of the main girl character Cassie from Dance of Thieves, which I really liked, and I read that quite a while ago, so I don't know, just like a very vague similarity, but I did really like both of those characters, and kind of some of the premises in these books are a little bit similar. That is kind of one thing that I wouldn't necessarily criticize about this book, because I do still think it is unique enough for what it is, but while I'm reading it, I definitely do kind of compare it to some of the other books that I've read. A lot of the things in it kind of remind me of Hunger Games. I don't think it's necessarily like ripped off. I do think it is like unique enough, but I will say that there are a few things that definitely remind me of it. And like I said, Dance of Thieves, and kind of just like a bunch of other enemies to lovers books. I will say what I do think this book kind of does well is that the enemies to lovers scenes, like you have a lot of really good tension and build up in them, and it's not like we're switching too quickly into that lovers. However, I do think the enemy part is a little bit not necessarily underdeveloped, but I do think we do get like a really initial strong attraction kind of between both of the characters, and it doesn't necessarily feel like there's too high of a stake in them being enemies, but there is definitely a very valid reason, just like with the history of our main girl character Peyton. Another thing that I do think this book is doing really well, like I said, is the tension, and we get probably every single scene that you could think of where, you know, like we're holding a knife to each other's throat and all things like that, and I absolutely love it. The banter is also really good, and I do kind of like the side characters that we have. There's not too many, but I do think they are adding a little bit of extra spice and, you know, rivalry into this book, which is nice. There is also like a baby love triangle, maybe you could call it. I do think it's pretty clear who we're gonna, you know, be leaning towards, especially since, you know, the names of the two are on the back, and we also get the dual POV, but there is like a third little love interest kind of sneaking his way in there, which is kind of fun. But yeah, so I don't want to get too much into the plot just because I think it's kind of been fun to learn a little bit more about it. One of the main premises though is that there is kind of like this trial that our main characters are going to be competing in, so that's been really fun to read about. Like I said, that's kind of what reminds me of the Hunger Games, just a few of the aspects of it, but I don't think it's too similar necessarily. I just think that there are like a few times where I'm reading and that kind of is what pops into my head. But yeah, so far I am really liking it. I don't know if it's gonna be a 5-star, but I do really like the main characters. I think it's been really easy to get into. There's nothing that's overly confusing, especially for a fantasy book. To me though, it is kind of more of a fantasy book for romance readers than just a general high fantasy, because we do have a lot of focus on the romance. But for me, I do tend to like that, so that's not like a criticism at all, just more something to point out. And yeah, so I will come back a little bit later and give some more updates on this. Okay, hey guys, so right now I am like a little bit over 2/3, honestly pretty close to the end, have like a little bit over 100 pages left of Powerless, and I'm not really fully sure on my thoughts on this book yet. I do want to start off by saying I am really liking it, but I'm not quite loving it as much as I expected to, just based off of how many people seem to be loving it online. I don't think I saw really many people at all give it below a 5 stars, and while I do definitely see where the hype is coming from, and I am really enjoying a lot of the scenes, I'm really enjoying like the main relationship between the two main characters, I just think that I kind of went into it with maybe too high of expectations, and I also wasn't really aware of how many Hunger Games references or just the similarities that there were gonna be, because that, especially more so in the beginning, I've kind of gotten over that the more we get into it. It really threw me off in the beginning, and I just wasn't expecting that at all. I had heard that it had some similarities to Red Queen, like the author got some inspiration from that series, which I had never read, so I was just kind of like, oh, whatever. But the Hunger Games references are definitely very obvious in the beginning, and I wasn't really expecting that, and I think it kind of threw me off a little bit. However though, the more that I read, the more that kind of stops bothering me, and I kind of just get more into this story. And again, so the things that I do really like about it are the tension and the relationship and the angst between the two main characters. Even this far in, the two main characters are not together yet, like they're still very much in that like pining stage, which I am really liking. It is YA too, I have to say, which for me I didn't know going into it, and it does kind of make sense just like with the way the characters act and how old they are and stuff like that, so that doesn't really bother me, but I do think it is kind of good to go in knowing that. I do have to say, like, I am really liking this book a lot, but I think the hype for it kind of gave me some unrealistic expectations, and I thought it was going to be totally new and something I'd never read before, and kind of just like, oh, this amazing new thing. And while I do really like it, and I definitely would recommend it, it does kind of feel like it has a lot of tropes or just certain little details borrowed from a lot of different books I've already read, so it just wasn't giving me something completely new that I've never read before. That doesn't mean it's not good at all, but I just think I was expecting something a little bit different than it ended up being. So I will probably just come back once I finish it. I am going on a trip later today, so I'm really gonna try and finish it before I have to leave. If I can't, then I might just end the video a little bit early and you guys would would just have to wait until my like November wrap up to actually get my full thoughts on it, but obviously I do think I'll have like a pretty good grasp since I've already read a decent chunk, but we shall see. I am really trying to get through this and finish it, but I also have some schoolwork to do, so we'll see. So that's my thoughts on Powerless up until right now. I will let you guys know if anything changes, or yeah, just come back once I've read a little bit more. Okay, hey guys, so unfortunately I do have to go leave for my flight right now. I only have 50 pages left of Powerless, and I do think that the more I read, the more I just like it more and more, especially these last like 50, 75 pages. I've just been way more into the story, which obviously is good. I will say, like, I think I kind of said this before, my absolute favorite parts of this entire book is the romance, is the relationship between our two main characters, Kai and Peyton. It is very much a slow burn, but like in the best possible way, because you're milking all that tension and angst and desire that they have for each other, which is honestly very evident pretty early on, but you get a ton of it, which is some of my absolute favorite parts of the book. And yeah, I think the author did a really good job. The only thing is, I kind of wish we got to see a little bit more of the trials, which is like the big Hunger Games aspect of it. I think the concept of them were really cool. I just wish they were maybe a little bit longer and a little bit more dramatic. I think that they kind of happen and then end a little bit quicker than I expected to, and we don't spend as much time in those scenes as I kind of assumed we would, you know, just kind of like based off this whole premise of this book. But other than that, I absolutely am really liking it. I wouldn't say love, because I don't think it's a 5-star read. Maybe it could be a 5-star series. I definitely see the potential for that, especially, I don't know exactly how long the whole entire series is going to be, how many books, but I know the next one, I think Reckless, is going to be coming out early next year. I'm not totally sure, but I am definitely going to read that. I'm really liking it. Like I said, these two main characters are my absolute favorite part of this entire book. Also, I will say too, for it being a fantasy, it's one of those lighter fantasy ones. I think I also kind of said something like that in the beginning, a little bit more along the lines of like Divine Rivals, where the romance is definitely a lot more of the main focus than just a subplot. Also, I kind of said it a little earlier too, I think, I'm not even totally sure, but I had no idea going into this that there was going to be like a little love triangle. It is definitely heavily one-sided, so I don't even know if you would even call it a love triangle, or there's just kind of like another extra character who has a little bit of a thing for our main girl character, but it's kind of problematic, if that makes sense. I don't know. I am really interested to see how that all wraps up, but I do think I will have to wait to add that to my November wrap up, so definitely check back for that. I will definitely add a little bit more of like a full review of this book in that video. But yeah, so I think that's gonna wrap up this video. I hope you guys liked it. I didn't get to read the exact same number of books that I usually like to do in these reading vlogs. I usually try to get 3, but of course we only did 2. That was just kind of just like the nature of how this week was for me. My boyfriend, who's currently doing long distance with me, was visiting over the weekend, so I didn't get quite as much time to read, and I also did have like a lot of stuff going on at the beginning of the week, so just one of those weeks. But thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you liked it. Let me know if you've read either of these books or what your thoughts were on them, and yeah, I will definitely see you guys all in the next one.